Hi, I'm Rebecca, and this is Aliah with Inland Empire Couples Counseling. And we are continuing our series on communication skills in relationships. And today we are talking about what are we talking about? Communicating your wants and needs.
There it is.
There it is. All right, start us off, Aliah. What do we need to know?
All right, so we're going to tell you guys and give you guys a few tips and tools on how to effectively communicate your wants and needs. And this can be used for your partner, for friendships, family, bosses, supervisors, right? Really being able to communicate and feel like you're being heard. So first, we're going to be talking about how to identify your need. What is it that you need, right? What is triggering this emotion, right? What need is not being met? So those are some kind of questions you can ask to say, what is it, right? So we have to develop our self-awareness. So one of the ways you guys can do this is really doing some self-reflection, right? Asking yourself in your relationship, what need is not being met of mine? Which is why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Right. And just really, and you can do that by journaling. You can do that just by some self-talk to yourself and just try to discover, right, what need it is. A lot of times we expect our partners to know, but we don't even know. Right. So it's just developing that self-awareness to say, okay, I know what need is not being met. So now I know what to communicate.
Right. And maybe the first thing that comes up is like, I'm not happy. I didn't like the way that you did something. And so you need to change. And before you go to have that conversation, you're going to do the self-reflection that you're talking about and ask these questions. What is it really that's missing here? Why did this thing upset me?
Exactly. Ask yourself why. When we say I'm not happy, right? Many couples that come to us use that. That is the line. If we got $1 for every line, right? But then when we ask them, well, what need isn't being met that's making you unhappy? That's where the disconnect is. That's where, oh, I don't know. I just have this feeling, right? So we really have to do some self-reflection and get in tune with what our needs are. So then we can tell our partner.
Right. Or it's really easy to talk about what's not working or what you don't like rather than it takes a little bit more work, I guess, to get in tune with, well, what is it that I do want then? If I'm not happy with this, what's the need that's not being met? Okay,
yeah, so and it could be scary if you've never done it before, right? Like you have to be able to be open and vulnerable with yourself, right? Because it can be scary to be like, oh, I'm relying on someone to meet my needs, right? And that can be scary for a lot of people.
Right, for a lot of us, that's a very uncomfortable, vulnerable kind of place to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we identified the need, and then what's next?
So how to pick the proper time, right? When do we tell our partner about our need? So the first tip I would give anyone, whether it's for your partner or a supervisor or friend, picking the time is very important. In the middle of an argument or disagreement, you trying to express your need, it may just fall on deaf ears because at that point, we're both defensive, we're both arguing, I'm ready for battle, right? I'm not necessarily active listening. Right. So then, so imagine you're expressing your need in why you guys are in conflict and your partner or friend or whoever didn't receive it. Right. Well, now it's going to trigger some other emotions like, oh, I expressed my need and no one's doing, you're not meeting it, even though I told you. Right. But if you didn't pick the proper timing to where the person is actively listening, they're open, they're calm, and they actually hear you. Right. Because a lot of times when we're in conflict, we listen to respond instead of listening to hear. Right. So we really want to be mindful of when am I making my request? Is my partner in a good place to receive this?
Right. Which might not be when they walk in the door from work.
Right.
Or it might not be, this happened recently with a couple. It might not be after the person has worked an overnight shift. That might not be the best time to, approach your partner. And it doesn't mean that you can't talk to them. It's just like set yourselves up for success by waiting until the timing is good, or maybe making a request. Hey, there's something I want to talk to you about. Is now a good time? Would it be better if we, talked after dinner or something like that?
Absolutely. And another tip that we can give, and maybe we can even do a video on this down the line, is how to check in with your partner, right? How to carve out time to really check in with your partner. So we know that that is the proper time to discuss any concerns that we have in our relationship.
Love it. Let's make a note and do that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we picked the proper time, and now what's next? Staying away from blame and shame.
So we got the perfect time, right? That means we're ready to have this conversation. Both of us are ready to listen and hear. What can make it be challenging is if we're using certain words, right? If we're placing blame, well, you don't do this, you should have done this, you should have known better, right? The should, right? Mm-hmm. Or just blame words, right? It makes it hard for a person to receive, right? Because as soon as I'm feeling attacked, it goes that listening to respond instead of listening to hear kind of thing happens. Mm-hmm. And then I'm not hearing you at this point, right? So if you guys have watched our first video on I statements, right? This is where we use this I statement, right? I feel hurt that you didn't have dinner with me because, I need to spend time with you. I need that quality time, right? Versus you should have known better to come downstairs to eat dinner with me, right? So these tips we're giving you guys is not just one tip for all, right? It's learning these tips and applying all of them, right, to your communication. I like to say you have a communication toolbox. So we're just giving you different tools to put in that toolbox. So for different situations, you can pull from it, right? So this is where we use the I statement. This is where we own what we feel, and we expressing why we feel this way. We're expressing what need is not being met without the blaming or shaming.
Right. And I'm thinking about if you really want this thing to be heard, mm-hmm. you want your partner to get what you're saying and want to meet your need. If you go into a lot of shame of them and blaming them and criticizing them, it's going to make it harder for them to want to meet your need.
Yeah.
Because they're feeling defensive and attacked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Anything else you want to say on that? Or are we ready to move to how to make the request?
Let's go to the next step.
All right, let's do it.
Request. So we're in mid conversation with our partner, and we're finally getting to the point where we've identified what need needs to be met. We've communicated and used our I statements of what emotion is triggering us. We picked the proper time. Now, how to request, right? We want to be mindful when making a request, right? We want to, in that time, we also want to open the floor for our partner to make requests as well, because we're in a good, calm state in our communication, right? So how to make a request? One, we want to make sure it's realistic, right? If anyone knows your partner, it's you, right? So make sure whatever request you're making can be met, right? Mm-hmm. So ask yourself, is this reasonable? Is this doable, right? Can my partner do this, or am I setting myself up to feel let down again, right? So how to request? You want to be clear. Again, the still no blame, shame, and you want to be very factual when it comes to expressing your need. So the request will be, if we go back to the example I used recently, I value quality time with you. Can you eat dinner with me twice a week? Right? You're tying that value in there. You're expressing your emotions, right? There's no blame or shame, and the request is there. And in that example, we also put a goal in there, like a time frame, twice a week, right? So now we have something to monitor and say, hey, babe, it's Sunday. We only ate dinner once today. Can we do better next week, right? So that's also a tip when you make a request. Is it something that has something you can measure? Right, to hold your partner and yourself accountable in helping you, making sure your need is being met.
Right, but also for you to know, like, did they do it or not? I think this is a great way to be able to see that I asked for something and my partner showed up for me. Mm-hmm. If it's too vague, how do I know if they did it?
Yep.
But when it's specific, then there's a way for you to really see how much they love you and care about you, and that they're willing to do that thing, right? Mm-hmm. I also see people fall into a trap sometimes that when you're making one of these requests for change, for a need to be met, that we can fall into a trap of giving like a laundry list of the times in the past when the thing didn't happen.
Right.
instead of just saying, okay, forget about what happened in the past. From here into the future, this is what I need and want from you. Can you do that for me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even with that, sometimes maybe doing one need at a time, right? Because it could be overwhelming and a little hurtful when you're like, you're not meeting any of my needs. Here's a whole list, and you're a horrible spouse, right? It could be hurtful. Then that person will be like, well, why even try, right? So it may even be helpful just to address one thing at a time with each other. If quality time is one of your needs and it's not being met, express that to your partner and come up with a game plan with your partner, right? The collaborative effect of the request is very powerful in relationships. Making sure both of you guys feel included in your decision making is so empowering for each of you. And knowing that this is something we agreed on together, that's something we did together. And it just makes it an easier thing versus, oh, I'm just doing it because my wife wants me to, or I'm just doing it because my husband wants me to. Now we're saying this is something we're doing because we decided on it together.
Right. Love that. Okay, everybody, take some time to practice how you are going to communicate your wants and needs to your partner. And if you need any additional support or want to see more of our videos, you can check us out on our YouTube channel or at our website at iecouplescounseling.com.